It began in the middle of an emergency meeting, half past midnight, high above Manhattan. The boardroom on Whitmore Tower's 48th floor glowed cold under fluorescent light, glass walls framing a skyline that never slept. CEO Serafina Caldwell leaned over her laptop, signature pen poised above $1 billion contract with Meridian Technologies. Her reflection fractured across the screen. Everyone was exhausted. The air was thick with tension, the kind that hums right before a storm breaks. Henry Dalton, CFO, muttered about quarterly losses. Clinton Ree, her flawless assistant, offered calm assurances. The deal was supposed to stabilize Whitmore's plummeting stock, to prove Serafina wasn't just the youngest CEO in company history, but the most capable. Then it happened, a quiet clatter, the squeak of a mop wheel, and the faint splash of water. The janitor, Archie Flynn, had been cleaning the hall outside. His bucket tipped. Water streamed across the marble floor, and through the glass door left slightly ajar. It struck the edge of Serafina's glass, toppling it over. The water splashed across her open laptop. The hiss that followed cut through the boardroom like a scream. The screen went black. For a moment, no one moved. Then it flickered back to life, revealing something none of them expected. An unfamiliar window blinking in the center, a progress bar, file transfer, meridianzcure.net, uploading 87%. Lines of text scrolled across the display. Emails, proprietary blueprints, encrypted backups, all uploading to an external server. Is this a joke? Henry demanded. Clinton leaned forward, feigning confusion. That can't be right. Maybe it's a system glitch. But Leo Bennett, head of IT, had already paled. That's not a glitch. That's data exfiltration. Serafina stared, heart-hammering. Her company, her life's work, was bleeding secrets right in front of her eyes. She turned on the janitor, fury flaring through her exhaustion. You just cost me everything. But Archie didn't flinch. His voice was low, calm. Now do you see why I had to do that? Security rushed in, confiscating his keyring and USB drive. Serafina ordered Leo to shut down the system. Clinton, ever the composed advisor, suggested they detain Archie further, claiming sabotage. But something in the janitor's eyes gave Serafina pause. Not guilt, not fear, just certainty. Down in the security operations center 21 floors below, Leo ran diagnostics. What he found chilled him. The files on Serafina's laptop weren't identical to those stored in Whitmore's encrypted vault. Someone had modified them, embedding metadata that would make Meridian appear as the rightful inventor of Whitmore's signature technology, Project Aquila, a smart water sensor worth billions. The access logs told the rest. After-hours entries. A security card that should have been deactivated months ago. Serafina's world tilted. Hours earlier, she had been seconds from signing away her company. Now, a janitor had just exposed that the entire deal was a setup. Archie sat in a small holding room on the 47th floor, hands folded, eyes tired but steady. He looked nothing like the criminal they'd treated him as. When Serafina entered, still in her red dress, her authority stripped raw, he simply nodded. "Explain," she said. He did. He told her about the wireless access point outside the boardroom, blinking with strange traffic, about unlogged cable runs someone had installed in the walls, about how, for 3 nights, he'd watched a shadow network come alive, and how he'd realized that the only way to stop it in time was to cut power the old-fashioned way, by shorting the connection. "With water," he said simply. She stared. "You could have told someone." "I did," Archie said. 3 days ago, I told my supervisor. He told me janitors don't give tech advice." Leo interrupted, entering with new findings. "He's right. The transfer would have finished in 10 minutes. Meridian would have had everything." Serafina turned away, her mother's silver ring twisting on her finger. Trust the right people, not just the powerful ones. The last thing her mother ever said. She faced Archie again. "I need your help." Archie blinked. "Why would you trust me now?" "Because you stopped the upload instead of starting it. Because you had 3 years to steal anything and didn't. Because I've spent 2 years trusting the wrong person." In the hours that followed, Serafina, Leo, and Archie worked side by side. They dug into logs, reconstructed file histories, traced hidden access points. What they found pointed to one name again and again: Clinton Rhee, the perfect assistant, the man who never slept, the one who'd handled every urgent update himself. Clinton denied everything, of course. Claimed Meridian had asked for sample files. Henry backed him, desperate to protect the contract. But Archie had one last card. From his confiscated USB drive, he pulled checksums, verifications proving that the sample files had been tampered with. The sabotage was deliberate. If Serafina had signed that contract, Whitmore's technology would have been stolen legally. Meridian would have held proof of invention, and Whitmore would have collapsed within months. By dawn, word of the breach had already leaked to tech blogs. The board panicked. Henry demanded Serafina's suspension to reassure investors. She ignored him. She stood before them, eyes rimmed with fatigue, but voice clear. "Yes, I made mistakes," she said. "I trusted appearances. But thanks to one man, we caught this before it destroyed us." She laid out the evidence. Network tunnels, timestamps, financial transfers, everything. The room went silent as she declared, "The Meridian deal is suspended. All systems go offline until verified. I won't trade integrity for profit." It wasn't the speech they expected from a CEO, but it was the one that saved the company. Still, the threat wasn't over. Clinton and his co-conspirators were still inside the network. To expose them fully, Archie proposed something bold. A trap. They'd create a fake file labeled Aquila V2 final specs, plant invisible trackers inside, and give Clinton controlled access under the guise of recovery work. The instant he touched it, they'd have proof. Serafina hesitated. Trusting Archie meant betting her career on a janitor's plan. Then she remembered the way his eyes had looked that night. Unafraid, honest, human. She gave the order. Do it. But before the trap could be set, Clinton struck back. He launched a data wiper program meant to erase all digital traces of his involvement. The servers overheated. Cooling systems failed. Within minutes, alarms blared through Whitmore Tower. Smoke filled the corridors. The 21st floor server room was on fire. Serafina ran. When she reached the sealed door, the lock wouldn't open. The fire suppression system had triggered lockdown. Archie appeared beside her, keyring in hand. With calm precision, he popped the emergency override and hauled the door open. Flames licked the ceiling. Smoke burned their eyes. Serafina dug for the backup cage, determined to save Project Aquila's last clean drive. Archie pulled her toward the right rack, the one labeled Survivor. They tore it free as foam rained from the sprinklers. Coughing, soaked, they stumbled into the hall. The drive clutched between them like a lifeline. For a moment, Serafina just stared at him. "You saved my company again." Archie shook his head. "No, just the truth." The building still smelled of smoke when dawn light crept through the skyscraper windows. Serafina stood near the charred server room. The backup drive clutched in her hands like fragile glass. The fire crews had left. The chaos had thinned. But the war inside Whitmore Industries was only beginning. Across the city, the first news alerts hit the morning feeds. Breaking. Whitmore Industries data breach. Internal sources point to corporate espionage. The story spread like wildfire. By noon, the company's stock was in freefall. Investors demanded answers. The board demanded blood. And Serafina, barely running on caffeine and adrenaline, refused to step down. Leo met her in the executive office, holding a tablet filled with security footage. "We got something," he said. "Clinton didn't just copy files. He used Meridian's encrypted channel to transfer kickback payments." He tapped the screen. Video playback showed Clinton entering her office 3 nights earlier, swiping his ID, and plugging in an unregistered device. On the timestamp, Archie's maintenance badge was listed 2 minutes before him. "Wait," Serafina said. "He used Archie's ID?" Leo nodded grimly. That's how he planned to frame him. Her chest tightened. The janitor she'd almost had arrested was the one being used as a scapegoat all along. Downstairs, Archie was quietly fixing the water-damaged floor near the lobby, back to his uniform and mop. When she found him, he didn't look surprised. He'd expected her. "You were right," she said softly. "He tried to bury you." Archie's response was calm. "Powerful people always need someone invisible to blame. I just happen to be the easiest one to erase." She stared at him, struck by the simple truth of it. For years she'd been surrounded by men like Clinton, smooth, articulate, impeccably dressed, but it was this quiet man with scarred hands and steady eyes who'd seen the rot from the inside. "We're not done yet," she said. "We're going to expose every piece of this." He smiled faintly. "Then let's clean house." That afternoon, Serafina called an emergency board session. Every major executive was there. Henry, Clinton, the lawyers, even 2 representatives from Meridian joining by video. The tension was suffocating. "Before we proceed," she began, "I want to show you something." She nodded to Leo. The screens around the room came alive. Surveillance footage, bank statements, IP trace maps. Bit by bit, the puzzle came together. Each clip landed like a blow. Clinton accessing restricted directories. Meridian's offshore accounts wired with 7-figure consulting fees. Deleted audit trails resurfacing with timestamps that matched his keycard. When the evidence of forged contract appeared, Clinton's facade cracked. "You can't prove intent," he snapped. "The files were for review. I was protecting company interests." Archie's voice cut through the room like steel. "No, you were protecting your payout." Everyone turned. He stood near the door, still in his janitor's uniform, holding a small external drive. "I think this belongs in the record," he said, setting it on the table. Leo connected it. The screen filled with Clinton's private communications. Emails arranging data leaks. Voice notes coordinating with Meridian's lead negotiator. Proof beyond denial. Serafina's voice stayed even. "You used me, my company, and my team. And you almost got away with it, because you counted on me underestimating the man who cleans my floors." The silence that followed was deafening. Clinton's chair scraped backward as security stepped forward. His final protest drowned under the sound of the cuffs snapping shut. By nightfall, Whitmore's crisis had become redemption. News outlets that morning had labeled the company compromise. By evening, they called it the comeback of corporate integrity. Investors rallied. The board issued a formal statement clearing Serafina of wrongdoing. Meridian faced federal investigation, but the victory didn't feel triumphant. It felt heavy, like standing after a long fall. Serafina found Archie one last time in the quiet of the 47th floor, overlooking the city that glittered like nothing had ever happened. He was packing his cart, ready to leave. "You're not staying?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Never been one for offices. I came here to fix things, and I did." "You did more than fix things," she said. "You saved us." He shrugged. "You save yourself. You just needed someone to make you look in the right direction." She hesitated, then held out a small envelope. "This isn't charity. It's a consulting offer. Officially, you'll be part of our internal risk division. Pays better than janitorial, and I could use someone who isn't blinded by suits and titles." Archie looked down at it, then back at her. "You sure you want the janitor in the boardroom?" "I'd rather have the janitor who stopped a billion-dollar heist," she said. "Consider a promotion." For the first time, he laughed, low, genuine, surprised at himself. "All right then, boss. But only if I get to keep my mop." "You can keep whatever you want." Weeks later, Whitmore Tower buzzed again, not with panic, but purpose. Project Aquila relaunched stronger than ever. Security was airtight. Transparency enforced. Serafina's leadership was hailed as revolutionary. The CEO who rebuilt her empire from the inside out. But behind closed doors, she knew who the real hero was. Every morning, she found a small note taped to her office door, written in neat handwriting. "Clean floors, clear conscience." Hey! She never removed them. And somewhere in the sublevels of Whitmore Tower, Archie worked quietly, still fixing what others ignored: servers, systems, sometimes hearts. The man everyone overlooked had become the silent guardian of the company's soul. One evening, as the lights dimmed across the skyline. Serafina stood by her window watching the city breathe. She thought about how close she'd come to losing everything, and how salvation had arrived disguised as a janitor with a mop and a conscience. Maybe that was a lesson. That sometimes the people who save us don't wear suits or titles. They just show up, see what's broken, and fix it, without waiting for permission. Below her, Archie pushed his cart down the corridor, mop handle glinting under the lights. For a moment, she caught his reflection in the glass and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't turn, but somehow she knew he heard, because heroes, she realized, don't always make headlines. Sometimes they just make sure the floor beneath you doesn't collapse.